Hey guys, here's a continuation of me building the bottom end on this B20V. Sorry if my voice sounds a little off. Yep, as you can tell, I'm still a little bit sick. So we were held back because the crank girdle was missing. Well, it wasn't missing, but the bolts were too short, and that ended up being the case again. We'll get to that later in the video here. So here I'm just busting the rod bolts loose. These are the ARP 5/16 hardware, and they were on there pretty tight. My goodness, sorry. They were on there pretty tight, but it's all good. I got them busted off. They're pretty nice units on these VTEC rods. I might get some when I build my B18B for my LS. Here I'm just making sure you see the line on the cap. You got to make sure you put it back with the line lined up on the rod there. If you don't do that, the engine will explode. Okay, maybe not really with new rods, but it could explode. We did use standard size bearings, and they did measure out fine. Here's me just cleaning off. I want to make sure my surface is as good as possible. Cleanliness is like key factor into building a good engine. I'm sure everyone knows that, but just crossing my T's and dotting my I's, and this went together extremely well, and it was just a super satisfying, relaxing build to put this all together. The hardest part was busting those caps off the rods, but I'll also show you that later in the video here. So as you can see here, I'm just blowing right on through this. I got held back because one of my wrist pins was missing. It flew off, so I had to wait for that to come in the mail to continue building this engine. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna at least get all the bearings set inside these rods and whatnot, and I'll be ready when I come back to it. This footage took over like half a month to do because I was just waiting on parts to come, just for assembling this bottom end here. But it's super easy, and I recommend everyone build an engine at least once. Here we're getting the pistons all oiled up and getting the walls all oiled up too, so we don't score up the surfaces on the block. Then of course I got the piston ring compressing tool that I actually rented from work. I don't have my own. I mean, I do, but it's only for a set size 81.5 millimeter bore. And that's when I built my GSR engine back in 2019. These tools, they require a little bit of a finesse, and it drove me crazy at first, but if you have patience, they'll go in. One thing I made sure to do, it doesn't really matter on these, but I made sure the VTEC logo on all the rods were facing towards the number 1 cylinder. I just wanted uniformity, so all the pistons are identical front to back, but I still want it to be uniform, so I got VTEC facing towards the right, and here I am just pushing it down in the block. I have my hand on the bottom to make sure that the connecting rod doesn't whack the crankshaft. I actually did that on my GSR, and that had rod bolts pressed into it, and it left a gouge in the crankshaft. But I've beaten that car to 9,000 RPM multiple times over the past 5 years of driving it, and it's been fine. So I'm not that worried about it, but this isn't my engine, so I took utmost care to take the utmost care of it. And here we are turning it around, and we're going to start doing the plastic gauge soon here. And one thing I didn't realize is my mains are actually loose because I knew I'd be taking them out later. And we got to put GSR main bolts in. Here I am, I'm just putting the plastic gauge in. I actually have had this plastic gauge sitting around for years, and I bought some new plastic gauge, and as soon as I opened my toolbox, I was like, oh, well, there's my old plastic gauge. Here I'm just making sure that the rods are lined up again. You remember that line? You want to keep those caps pretty uniform. I think it doesn't really matter because these pistons really haven't broken in and worn a certain way yet because they're brand new, but it's still just key to put them back the way you got them. Threading in the bolts here, I torqued these down to 30 foot-pounds. It said like 25 to 28 foot-pounds on the spec sheet, but I torqued them down to 30 foot-pounds just because I don't really trust the Harbor Freight torque wrench that much. Every time I build an engine, I just buy a new Harbor Freight torque wrench because it's kind of cheap that way. The neighbor has a Snap-on guy come around though, so I might ask him if I can test my torque wrench's accuracy on his machine in his truck whenever he heads on over. Here's me pointing out those torques. Like I said, I went to 30 foot-pounds. I'm not that worried about it. And I don't know what this block would be rated for. I mean, we got the forged rods, forged pistons, we got the dart and sleeves. I'm assuming this block can hold up to 500 horsepower, maybe even 600 reliably, but let me know in the comments below what you think. Here, I was just absolutely struggling with that darn piston. I had to tap it back on out and re-put it back in. You want to be careful because those rings are brittle and you can't force them to go in, or no bueno things will happen. But there we are. We got it in, doing testing the clearances, and all the clearances on this came out to about 30 thousandths to 25 thousandths. I think I'm saying that wrong. But anyways, so when I torque those rods down, you're supposed to let them squish for a few minutes. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll go work on the tractor for a bit. It's got a stuck exhaust valve. Still working on that. All right. So then here I came back and I popped them off, and then I was like, all right, time to measure the clearances. And right here is where it got pretty primitive. So I just took a miniature screwdriver and dulled the end, because those caps, they have like those little dowels on them and they get pressed in that rod. They don't want to come loose. So I would hammer between them to break them loose while being careful not to gouge it out. And here you can see I'm doing it. It's within spec. Within the spec of manufacturer specs, and also on the VTEC box itself. So I'm not that worried about it. Maybe it's slightly on the bigger side, but that's okay with me because we're going to go boost eventually on this anyways. I want a little bit more oil getting in there. And then here we are, just blasting it off with brake clean and cleaning it up. Remember, cleanliness is key. You don't want to leave that stuff in between there. You can get some premature wear on the crankshaft. A little bit of crankshaft wear, honestly, in my opinion, isn't a huge deal. I mean, some guys even argue it gives you extra oil clearances, but it's nice to do things to spec. Here I just got some assembly lube, assembling it all on up. You know, you think it smells like cherry, but it doesn't. I'm trying my hardest to make sure there's no actual lube between the mating surfaces. I don't know if it matters too much, but I'm just hyper anal about that stuff. I don't want it to possibly affect my clearances when I'm torquing it on down. Again, these are 5/16 ARP 2000 bolts. Again, I don't know what power they're rated up to, but they're pretty awesome. And it's nice using bolts versus studs because you don't have to worry about gouging that crankshaft when you're dropping that piston rod in. And here we are on the other side, checking the clearances. I rotated the crank a little bit, so that's why it looks funny. Yep, there's our spec again. And I'm doing this in millimeters, not thousandths of inches, my bad. But it turned out real good. Thumbs up. Now here's a top-down view of the boom tubes, and a little off topic here, but I know a lot of people don't like the fact that we're putting a B20 in pretty much a parts and numbers matching B16 car, but again, it's not my car. Look at them dome pistons, awesome. Now some folks are probably wondering, well, if you're planning on boosting it, why are you going to put higher compression pistons in it? And well, originally the plan wasn't to boost it, but kind of talked the owner into like, hey man, you should really boost this if you're building up the bottom end. And you can boost a car with higher compression pistons. You just definitely want to be really careful on your timing and whatnot. I personally, when I build a car, I might go that route too. Here I am very pneumatically hammering on the block girdle here. And this is when I was like, yeah, those bolts aren't high enough. We need to get GSR bolts, but you live and you learn. And I'm glad I can learn on his engine, so I don't have this problem when I build my engine. Here I'm trying to do my cheesy katana unsheathing of the rod bolts, but it didn't really work out too well. But I was like, well, okay, we can't finish the bottom end, so be it. At least I'll finish assembling the top end, and I want to cover up those piston bores too, so no more dirt and debris get in there, because my shop door is always open, otherwise the humidity is just horrible in there. You're only supposed to get them hand tight, but I like getting them a little bit beyond hand tight. Just makes me feel better, and I've had no issues with doing this in the years I've worked with ARP stuff. Then here is the cylinder head. Look at those flat valves. Awesome. Super Tech through and through, top to bottom, quite literally. So here's the Cosmic gasket. It's a thinner head gasket too to help bump up that compression. Putting last bit of oil in there. You know, I want to lay this up for a little bit. This engine still won't run for probably another month from making this video, so might as well just do my due diligence while also making sure that the deck is clean and not getting any oil in between the deck and the head surface. Dropping that gasket on there. It was a pretty high quality gasket. I mean, I guess I've always just ran OEM or just like a generic one, but no disrespect to Cosmic, I'm sure it'll work great. I've even drilled out OEM head gaskets and taken out the center layer before, and I've had good luck with that. Man, it is so much easier dropping a cylinder head on when it's just naked and there's no actual cams and cam gears and retainers and whatnot all in it. Usually that hurts my back when I do that, but it wasn't bad at all. Then this little lost motion assembly dampener thingamabobber fell out. At first I didn't know where it went, but I figured it out pretty quickly. And here you can see that Super Tech goodness, dual valve springs. Here I'm dropping in the actual ARP hardware, so the washers and the nuts, and I have ARP assembly lube on them too. And it is a pain to do on these engines, but I found out as long as I kind of put it on my finger or pinch it on the pliers, it's relatively easy. You just gotta be patient if it falls to the side, and you kind of gotta dig it out of the depths of the cylinder head. Here I am torquing it down to 80 foot-pounds. I just remembered I didn't go in stages like I should have, but I'm not that worried about it. This little 3/8 torque wrench, the highest it can go is 80 foot-pounds, but I'm gonna hit it back with my neighbor's snap-on torque wrench when I get that back. He needed it back, and that's a 1/2-inch drive, and that thing can go way higher than just 80 foot-pounds. This thing, I'm pushing it to its limit. I bought this torque wrench specifically just for assembling the bottom end. Yeah, I never had a 3/8. But anyways, yeah, just blasting right on through it here. And man, it was a bear to do at that angle. And I'm moving the block everywhere, but we got it done. If you guys enjoyed the video, please drop a like, please drop a comment what you liked and didn't maybe dislike, and please subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I do a little bit of everything from farming to Honda Civics, but I just like doing what I like to do. Let me put that valve cover on to protect the top end while it's sitting. So anyways guys, thank you for watching the video. I really appreciate it. Here's a picture of me and the homies right here. But you guys have a great rest of your day, and thanks for watching.